Buy me a cherry face now. Hey now, hey now, hey now, now. Hey now, hey now, hey now, now. I wanna teddy oh, I wanna rock and roll. Take me to the shopping mall. Buy me a rubber ball. Hey now, hey now, hey now, now. Hey now, hey now, hey now, now. Whoa, with the light like the chip in the eyes. Whoa, don't stop, gonna take you by surprise. Every night when the sun goes down and people are staying at home, you can tell your mama and daddy leave those children alone. They know what they're doing, they ain't running away. Uncle John said, tell her Mary, I got nothing to say. Hey now, hey now, hey now, now. Hey now, hey now, hey now, now.
Good morning. Today is August 31st, 2019 AD, Labor Day weekend in the United States of America. Welcome to Uncle Benny's Creepy Campfire Stories, the Sludge Report edition / project, nearing the end of at least a semi-regular, publication. That'll work. To where I may or may not do it on occasion, but after the 5th of September, I'm kind of through this. In fact, I'm just downright disgusted, more than I thought I'd ever be, with the drudgereport.com. At one point in time, years ago, I actually thought, well, this is good. I'm getting a lot of stuff that I couldn't find other places, but it's just filthy. It's a filthy rag. It's disgusting. It's mind control. It's unbelievable. And that's what this has sort of been about, is to share how to we clothe ourselves in the right. Well, we frame the news with the Word of God. That's the most important thing. And we also guard our hearts from stuff. And that's the last thing that's going on here. Are people's hearts being anything but assailed and polluted with the stuff that, I'm not saying I have the wisdom of Solomon, but let me tell you that, he allowed himself everything to gain wisdom in his life. And in his older years, he realized all was vanity. But look, what I'm saying is, I'm no prude. I've been around. I'm no goody two shoes. And listen, I want to be. I want to be. Uncle Benny wants to be straight and narrow, right? But that's not how it all started for me, right? And this is one reason that I've been brought out of darkness. And for all of these things and these people, but for the grace of God, there go I, right? Anyway, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense. All I'm saying is that, it's one thing to sit in a ivory tower or be self-righteous or be uber religious and just criticize and criticize. That's not where I'm coming from. I really would love to see, first of all, people set free from the mind control. I don't know if that's first of all, but that's what I'm doing here. But most importantly, when I talk about Matt Drudge is a homosexual, well, I don't know his practice of it, but the way he runs his newspaper is downright. He needs some correction, man. It's downright disgusting. Let me give you for instance. I've talked about this before. I say it all the time. He always peppers this stuff with just prurient things. Let's see if the article's still here. Always stuff about sexuality, sex, and look, it's all a part of life. But it's our culture, our cult. There you go. Always remember that. Words have power. When you hear the word culture, you think about cult. At least when it comes to the United States of America, it's very important. We got a lot of cult of personality going on, whether it's Hollywood, music industry, or politicians, or royalty overseas, which for some strange reason, it's not strange. I'm just lacking a better word at the moment as I'm trying to get in the groove here. For whatever reason, people have no compunction about worshiping the royals. Well, they don't worship them, Uncle Benny. They just like the pomp and pageantry. Yeah, that's not worship. You're giving them worth. As an American who came out from under that lot, broke free, and now it's esteeming them better than yourselves in so many ways. Anyway, that's an aside topic, not important right now. Let's see, do I see the article I was looking for? Yeah, it's very much here up at the top. Teledildonics. I did a whole episode, well, not a whole episode, but there was one that talked about Teledildonics. Teledildonics users, quote unquote, sexually assaulted by hackers, quote, spying on people having sex, unquote. Every other week there's stuff in here about the sex dolls, stuff about, even this, okay, this is sensational. Pastor accused of seeking group sex with minors. I've not even clicked on this yet. I don't need to. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know what happened. He's accused. That's, first of all, accusations are a dime a dozen, a penny a dozen. I saw, in fact, a local person here. Well, there was somebody accused of sexually assaulting people in their care, and they had the guy's mugshot. It was not very flattering, by the way, and it's on all the local news. I don't know if it's front page of the paper. I don't read that lousy paper, and I have reasons for calling it lousy paper. The point is that the guy's career, his business, and his profession, whether he's guilty or not, is over. At least around here, the best he could hope to is go to some other state, stay in his profession through the licensings, and set up shop somewhere else and hope to God nobody starts running, starts making a noise about what he was falsely accused of. Now, I read everything there was about it. It really, I don't know how good their case is. I don't really know how serious his crime was, but what they're accusing of is, it's unseemly. It's not appropriate. Let's say, in his level of responsibility towards his clients / customers, and the guy has been tried in the news. I talk about this a lot. People are tried in the media, tried in the news, and I'm of the mind there may be certain instances where it needs to be news or where it is news and irrelevancy. But just some guy that's mostly anonymous who's now under the accusations not going to have the opportunities to do what he's being accused of, but let him be tried and given due process. The guy's never going to get due process. I'm going off way that I didn't want to talk, and I guess that's good for that, because part of this is getting this energy going in me. I was given I've looked into it. I've replied to jury duty summons before, both local and federal, and I've looked into it. I've talked to the clerks of the court in both cases and trying to decide, because I really don't want to do it. I don't want to participate. They phrase it as like, oh, this is a great opportunity to do your civic duty and learn about our justice system and na 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 na. And it's just one of those sales jobs like join the army, okay? And I've looked into the legality of it, and there are certain instances you can be, I can't remember now, it's not contempt, something else. Like they try to imply that if you don't reply to this letter, that they could summon you in, and that's you're under compulsion to at least reply. You may not serve on the jury, but you're under compulsion. Well, the last time I got one, I've kind of I'm getting a bit more. What's the word? I don't even want to say. Let's just say that over time, let's put it this way, in my favor, I'm maturing in my response and attitude towards some of these. Oh man. Well, you'll understand in a minute why I may be having a little brain fog here. I switched to instant coffee the last 2 days, and yeah, it makes a difference because I love coffee, like it a lot. Coffee is great, but it's something I actually would really want to not have as part of my routine, and I'm going to get into that. So let me get back to the jury duty thing, and my response the last time, because I feel conflicted. On one hand, I kind of want to do it. On the other hand, it's really putting me out. What do they pay you if you have to be gone for a week, a month, maybe longer? You don't know what case it's about if you get selected, And where I am in my life, that's not going to work for me. They can't pay me enough. Let me say this. They won't pay me enough. Yeah, that's maybe the better word. They won't pay me enough to do that, so it's not in my best interest. And I have to do what is in my best interest. I encourage you to as well. That implies a degree of selfishness, and that's okay. It also implies having healthy boundaries, and that's okay. Okay? So you have Uncle Benny's approval. Not that you need it or care for it, but there you go. So anyway, I started, I let myself think about it, and getting a little more annoyed because I have this conflict every time one of those letters shows up. And, I feel, gosh, am I going to get in trouble if I just throw it away? I do not want to send it back. I don't want to jump through hoops and chutes to go in and try to wiggle out of it. There's humorous portrayals of people doing that. For example, Larry David on Curb Your Enthusiasm. There's an episode of that, and I don't encourage watching that show. It's filthy. It can be blasphemous. It's funny as hell. To use a colloquial expression, I don't. Hell's not funny. Death in the grave's not funny, but it's funny. I mean, I've kind of binged on that show in times, and I didn't get to watch it when it was on HBO and it came out and all this kind of thing, and they've come back with the new season in the last year or two. I don't know if they're coming back anymore, and I apologize, you're just staring at the screen, you want me to get on with the show. But the point being is that I wanted to write a letter to the judge and explain to how I cannot, and this is where it make it interesting for you and be unique, is that I cannot serve on a jury with my experience with most American people who cannot think critically, who are reactive, they judge on appearances. Obviously not everyone, but I don't want to put myself in a situation where I'm trying to persuade people, or I'm forced to be in a situation with somebody who is logically fallacious, irrational, impressionistic, not very smart, not educated. And I don't mean that they haven't gone to, I don't care if they dropped out of school. You can educate yourself. You can know a little something about something, about the world, you can have experience, you can gain experience and wisdom. And I can't do it. Now, I'm not recounting exactly. I had some pretty powerful things to say, but just the gist of it was to send it back and basically say, you sold it to me in this way, how wonderful it's going to be and all this. It's like, I don't believe the system. You're usually going to get somebody that's being accused by the state, defended by the state, and judged by the state, or at least penalized by the state. There's a problem with that. Anyway, I'm going to far field here. Where did I even get off on this subject? I don't know. I'll just keep on trucking. It's just how it's got to go. It can be a little rough around the edges here. So I started off that with how Matt Drudge. That's all going to tie into something in a little bit too as well, because I do have one article that I want to talk about that I read today that is one of the most infuriating. It kind of is quintessential of everything sort of that I don't want to say I'm about. That understanding what's going on. It captures a lot of it, and the fruit of it. Okay. So anyway, yeah, I just want to say the longer I've done this, or longer I've been reading the Drudge Report, and even before I started doing these videos to kind of share like how, it's not just to share. I've said it's also for me to kind of get less rusty and the Word and things I already know in the Word. Got to frame it with the Word of God, because it will flatten you. I've said it the other video I made a couple days ago. You're not educated enough by the universities or whatever to handle the mental and emotional assault. And I'm going to get into that. This is going to relate. This is beautiful. So something that happened just, or at least it became aware of just the other day. It is very beautiful how this weaves together. You can't handle it. You might think you can. You've been handling it. You think, well, I get along okay. I'm reasonably happy. Are you? Are you walking around with peace that passes understanding? Isn't there low level, just fear and loathing and doom all around us? And affecting you? Listen, if it isn't affecting you and you're like sailing on this sea of bliss through the trials and tribulations that just happen to all of us in life, you are around people generally, have to deal with people, and they're not. I said hello to this woman who lives nearby me. I know her. She may not recognize me, but I have the feeling that she by now knows. I live near her. She probably just knows who I am. Maybe not. And I've known her for years and years and years. I don't know her, right? But I went to school with her children, engaged in extracurricular activities like sports and things with them. And, I wasn't friends or anything like that. But the point is that I wave. I've waved at her many times. She looks away, like she sees me coming and will avert her eyes to the ground. She's outside a lot, like taking her dogs for, to do their business, and I'll be passing by her, and I'll just, make a point to be friendly, But there's occasions I catch her eye and she'll look away. There's other times I see that she sees me coming, and then she makes a point to not be visually available. Now, she may have a lot of problems. She may be on medication. She may have agoraphobia, and she only comes out to walk. I don't know her that way. But yesterday, I I kind of caught her, I think, a little off guard, and she did see me, and it was a longer than usual eye contact. Can't remember if I started to. Yeah, I did. I waved. She looked down, but I slowed down a little bit. My window's down, and I said, "Hi there." And she looked at me and scowled, and there was no response of or reciprocating hello or greeting coming. And this little story is important because I don't really know what's going on in her mind. Maybe she's had a stroke. I don't know. Maybe she can't talk. I don't know this. I like, as I've said, to give people the benefit of the doubt. It's important. But odds are pretty high she's okay. She seems to be functioning every other which way. And I do know that she's, at least was, a well-moneyed person, country club type of person, and a little uppity. Just always had this air of conceitedness, possibly, and children too, by the way, at least one of them. So there's that's kind of around. So again, I'm an odds player, as I always say, and the odds are she's just a bitch, and now she's not that way to every neighbor, and I'm not her peer in age at all. So who knows? I can't take it personally, but it affected me. It bummed me out. It did. It was an opportunity for good vibrations. To love your neighbor. And not only did most times I get very clearly ignored or avoided. What if someone you knew and you have no reason that they would have a beef with you or anything like that, but every time they saw you coming and you saw them and they saw you. I mean, it's happened enough times. You have to believe they saw you because every time they cross the street, they cross to the other sidewalk just so they don't have to run into you. It might hurt your feelers a little bit, or you might wonder what gives. But everybody else that you happen to know, let's say you happen to notice, without getting too far into this little make-believe analogy, you happen to notice that they don't do that with anybody else. It's like, what in the world? But anyway, the point is that this woman looks, I had to sort of process that. I'm like, what the heck, man? That didn't make me feel good at all. It kind of annoys me. I don't have a bazillion friends not because I'm not friendly. Case in point, not because I'm not friendly. And she may have completely different reasons, and they may have nothing to do with me. Again, benefit of the doubt. But when you're rebuffed at every turn, when whatever reason, whether I know, for example, if people I know I make this video or say some of the things I say, some may talk about me, some may avoid me, some may get angry and confront me, some may say snide remarks if I happen to be in a setting, let's say like a Sunday school class. They may make condescending remarks. I've had that happen, not directly related to this, but for other reasons, because of how I am or who I am, and the truth offends people, and a lot of people don't want to know. They get if you give somebody cognitive dissonance. I've talked about this before, and I say this a lot now. I've talked about this before. I keep saying that. That's another reason. It's like, okay, I give it 90 days and I'm out. I don't need to be talking about this every time because I don't have that many viewers, and I don't know how many are repeats. I don't know how many are bots, and what a waste of my time, except for what it does for me. And I've got a lot less time-consuming ways to do this for myself. Really a lot, because it takes, already this morning I had some other things planned, and it takes a bit more time than it takes more time than I expect to get it all prepared, and then it takes more time for me to do it because, for example, I haven't even gotten into the 3 simple things I wanted to talk about. So, I've touched on most of them, but I have not gone to the heart of the matters. So, the news, back to this, if you think that you got, let's say you got a PhD in, I don't know, psychology or something, psychiatry even, whatever, or both. You've got several degrees, let's just say, and you're an Indian chief and a jet pilot and a dog trainer and a horse whisperer, okay? And an illusionist on the weekends. You're a magician in Las Vegas. I mean, you're just the, the cat's meow of all kinds of fields. You're a Renaissance woman or man, right? And as it were, and you listen to the news on your NPRs, on your MSNs, on your CNNs and your Fox, and through the newspaper that's laid out, at your Starbucks, your local newspaper, and your Wall Street Journal, and you grab the headlines, or you go into a restaurant and you're in a town and you see the newspaper in that machine. They still do that, or you hear friends talk about it. Hey, did you hear about that? Oh, isn't that just awful? You are affected by it, and if you're not, the people that you encounter are. And a case in point, the woman I'm talking about. This may not be her issue. Odds are high it's part of her issue, but because people are miserable, they're killing themselves left and right for all kinds of reasons. It all works together. People are depressed. They're taking more antidepressants than ever before. And why? Well, we're a media-driven culture, really are. Once upon a time, this was a nation that, for all its different denominations and ways of practicing out, was by and large, the book was the Bible. That was the media. That was the fellowship people had, was around the Bible and the Word of God. And I'm not saying we were exactly like the Amish, but we were closer to the Amish than whatever we are today. Does that make sense? It should. If it doesn't, I'm sorry. I'm doing the best I can, and to convey my point, and I guess I'm trying to, and I don't like to sell anything anymore. I'm trying to sell you on the idea that if you're not doing what I'm doing on your own, then you need to keep your head in the sand. You need to plug your ears and go la 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 whenever anybody talks to you about all the. I gotta say it, for all the shit that you hear, the lies, the half-truths, the spin, the propaganda, the scientific mind control. When I say scientific, it means there are those who study to do evil, who study how to manipulate and control us through many different ways. And one of the biggest ones, in fact, maybe you don't know this, maybe you do. The word government, think about the word meant, or the part of that word that's meant. It has to do with, govern is to control, right? Meant has to do with mentality, mental. Trying to control your mind. They control your behavior. Control someone's mind, you control their behavior, right? Excuse me, one moment. Again, I'm doing this on a laptop versus previous setup, so I have to change my positioning here. So, if you're not putting on the armor of God, if you're not, if you don't have enough of the knowledge of the Word of God, how to frame things, then what I'm doing here is a great service to you to kind of get some exposure, to know where to look. I put links, or in the description. I copy out from Proverbs and different places verses. Now, sometimes I'm using an application of the verse, but you really need to read a commentary like Matthew Henry, or maybe something Charles Spurgeon. He has great commentary on the Psalms, something like this, and learn to use Hebrew or Greek dictionary so you can see what the words mean. If you're trying to understand it, you got to do your own work. We've got to have our own relationship personally with the Word of God, and it's like any relationship. If you don't maintain it, then that's again where I'm coming from. A lot of things are pulling me away from even having the energy or time, or to care. Thinking I can just keep cruising along on the fumes of the times past when that was really a big part. There's a point. There was a point in my years where I thought, I really need to get into this because I'm seeing where this fits in life because of all the things that in myself and in the world around me, and even trying to understand what's it all about. There's so many ways to approach it. Is it the fact you're convicted of sin? Well, yes, that's why we need a Savior, but where do you get your theology? Well, I'm kind of jumping around a lot here, but to that point, that's something I want to say to people. I'll see people in comments, like there was a lot of times a musician will pass, and somebody will pass away. Doesn't have to be a famous musician, but people will make the comment how they're jamming with Prince and whoever, you name it, okay, up there in the sky, or they're looking down, and I want to say to them, where do you get your theology? Well, a lot of Christians, even churchianity, most people, and I'm not innocent myself, and I hope most, if not all of it's routed out of me already, especially some of the key things like that, like people when they die, all of a sudden now they're in a better place, and they're not suffering like they were, whether they're somewhere else or they're effectually like we were before we were born. You could call that being asleep. You could call that going back to God. But a lot of people, and even popular art, it's like people get their wings, Well, where do you get your theology? So anyway, there's a lot of places to come from it. The Holy Spirit starts convicting you of your lying, starts convicting you of stealing, starts convicting you of your laziness, of your rebelliousness towards your parents, rebelliousness towards any kind of authority, of your foul mouth, your short temper, you name it. All the things that we could classify as, your resentment towards somebody, or you're just unexplained, you don't like somebody to the point where you practically hate them. Things like this, just sin, right? You don't honor your mother and father. You don't. You steal. You lie. You lust after your neighbor's wife. You fantasize. Adultery. That's what I'm saying. And it doesn't have to be a man to a woman. Women are not that different. It's another cultural lie we've had for forever. But anyway, so where do you get your theology? So we need to be have a relationship with the Word ourselves and understand, because we're getting the news sent, jammed at us whether we want it or not. It used to be there were people, maybe the older men of a city or whatever, they would gather and they would try to hear the news, or they get to the marketplace, they hear news from afar and this and that, but your average person wasn't getting the volume and the variety of distraction, and it's wickedly powerful, all the ways that, whether they're upsetting people or desensitizing people, they're making their hearts hard. Let's just think about how many murders have you seen on television and in movies? I've seen more than I care to. In fact, I catch myself, I like to listen to a crime show once in a while, and there was a point in time where I forgot what it was called with Bill Curtis. Well, actually, he had several shows. He was on A&E. It's back when I watched television, and he was on A&E, and Bill Curtis would go through all these crimes, and then there was Law and Order. They'd have marathons, and man, you can get, I don't know what it is that appeals about it. Maybe it's our sense of justice, or also just like it makes us feel better about ourselves that we're not involved in such messes. I don't know. Or like, look how awful that person is, or wow, what a freaky story that is. I don't know. All I know is that, there is something that's very interesting about it, whether it's watching an interrogation or a trial, or learning about somebody who's pathology and crimes are just they're like, it's like a freak show, you know, and there's no end to it. There's no end to it. I mean, it's really, you don't have time in your life. I don't care if you're 10 years old. You aren't, and you live to be 110. You do not have. You cannot see all those stories if you spend every minute of your 100 years, because they're going to keep making more. You know, it's like at some point it's like, all right, I've seen enough. What's it doing for me? And now it's entertainment. It's entertainment. To you're in a sense rejoicing over the misery of others. You know, that, and Bible say not to do that. So lest the Lord get angry. You know, when you see them get when things fall back on them, and you rejoice about it, be careful. You know, because the Lord could get angry with you, and turn and deal with you. You know, because you're rejoicing and jumping up and down and cheering because somebody you judged to be bad really had a tragedy befall them or something like that, or things really got bad for them. Anyway, wow, I'm just going really far here afield, but I guess because I'm nearing the end of this, and you know, we've got to pray first of all and have the hunger for the Word of God, because we've often filled our bellies, our figurative bellies, with so much other stuff. We're not healthy. We don't even have a proper appetite. What happens a lot of times when people are sick? They don't have an appetite. So we need an appetite. You know, we need hunger and thirst after righteousness, which is going to touch on the next thing. So, all right. Anyway, I made my point about, you know, the longer I've done this, the Drudge report is one of the quote unquote, let's just call it top shelf, the news aggregates, and it's a cesspool. It's mind control. I keep saying this. It's like a tabloid, and it's not healthy to even read all the headlines here. It's just not, because why do you want to filter? You know, I'd rather have something pure than something I have to filter. Wouldn't you? You got to filter this out. I don't need to see all these stories. I don't need to, you know, how much is enough and how much is too little? How do you know you're even getting all you need to know? Well, there comes a point in time when you realize in wisdom what's important and what's shite, and that's all you need to know. You know. So anyhow, let's see. Let me get into what the stuff I want, and let me stop talking for a minute. I'm going to play you something. Better check the stream here. Just a moment. All right, seems good. So Jim Gaffigan is a comedian. I think he's growing, and you know, he's kind of at the pinnacle of his career, I might say. It's probably true, and I like him. I like to listen to him. He doesn't use foul language. He's very clean. He does say occasionally some things that if you're religious or Christian, it might, you know, and he makes fun of himself for doing that. It might offend some people, but he, knowing that I think he even says he still is Catholic, but it's mainly because his wife is. Well, you know what? I don't know his total upbringing, but some to do with Catholicism. Okay, that's sort of his realm of reference. There you go. That's his reference point a lot of times. So, you know, if he's a little irreverent, that's actually, in my opinion, for somebody in that proximity or of that background, extremely healthy. If somebody is rebelling against the Catholic Church, good. You recognize there's something healthy about you that recognizes there's something wrong with that. It's not Christianity. Anyway, so he's very entertaining and brilliant. He's a genius, in my opinion. He's a genius of. I think most comedy. I've said this since I think junior high. I've always had funny friends. Well, until now, I don't have that many friends. But you know, my close friends growing up, mostly like elementary and junior high and in high school and a bit beyond, they were the funny guys. And I usually, you know, you might not think it from knowing me through this kind of medium, or maybe other areas if you know me in real life, that you know how they have somebody who's plays the straight guy or whatever. I'm not saying I play the straight guy. I mean, I can be funny in my own right, but for some reason that that chemistry works with me. Somebody who's a humorist or funny. They're always taking a different perspective and they have a witty thing to say. And I've always called them genius of perspective, and that's really what it is. And that's my little phrase I've heard is genius of perspective. I came up with that when I was so young because I was trying to describe what it means to be funny. And this guy is a genius of perspective. I mean, it's just great. All right, so I'm going to play it. You can get a break from me for a couple minutes. We're going to talk about this. He's on Good Morning America, so you're going to see Jane Pauley in a minute. That's still her last name. And he goes on a thing about coffee is un-American.
Earlier, we told you about instant coffee. Now the subject is real coffee. Or is it? Jim Gaffigan, whose Amazon Prime special Quality Time starts streaming next weekend, shares some thoughts.
America. I love it. But we live in such a divided country. Red states, blue states, liberal, conservative. Each side thinks the other is wrong. I believe it's our civic responsibility to focus on the real problem, people. Those fellow citizens who are frankly destroying the true fabric of this great nation. I think everyone knows who I'm talking about. The decaf drinkers. We've put off dealing with these coffee frauds for too long, people. Now I understand there may be some decaf drinkers living amongst us. Maybe a decaffer is watching with you right now and drinking their dirt liquid. My objective is not to make them feel bad. So please do me a favor. Turn down their hearing aid. I'll wait. Thanks. These decaf weirdos have lost sight.
I want to point something out here that may be difficult to see. I'm not having this full screen just for the sake of I don't want it to affect the quality of the recording or the stream by using more of this. You know, I have a lot of things going on here. So anyway, his eyes are really bloodshot. I watched this yesterday, I think it was, or maybe the day before, and I was a little bit shy. It looked, I mean, there could be a number of reasons for that, but I want to point that out. His eyes are very red. Could be a number of reasons for that, but there's some other things I want to comment on in a minute.
Sight of the true purpose of coffee. Coffee should have caffeine in it. Everyone knows that. It's in the Bible, for God's sakes. Heck, even the way coffee is spelled, it looks like the person who wrote it had too much coffee. Coffee is not just some brown beverage we foolishly stand in line and pay too much for. Coffee fuels the engine of America and magically makes other humans palatable. If there was no real coffee, America as a country would literally stop. And so would many of our digestive systems. I resent how decaf is presented as some logical alternative to coffee. A server might ask, would you like regular or decaf? Do I look pregnant? Don't answer that.
Okay, that's kind of enough of this, really. It's not worth going a whole nother minute. He's funny. Some of the things he says in here are funny. He's a brilliant guy, okay? And I like him a lot. If I had to go to see a comedy show, if I was forced to go to a show, I would prefer him. So I want to talk about something he said about America runs on coffee, and you maybe have heard that expression before. I think there was even an ad campaign that said something like that, and that's largely true. Had I should have done a little more homework and rattle off some statistics to you, done a little research on it just briefly this morning, but I didn't think to do it because this actually was the sort of something I thought to do the other day. I didn't do a video yesterday, and then I sort of, oh yeah, that was the one thing I wanted to talk about, and I just kind of threw it in. So I read a book last year I want to share with you. Now I'm still drinking coffee. I've had a relationship with caffeine over the years that it's an addiction, and I've been addicted to it, and it's something that's it's not as hard as smoking, I would think. But I would say that it's something that, just like smoking, it's like you never think it's the right time to quit. It's just, well, I'll quit in a month, or I'll quit after this situation's over, or things like that. And especially if your life is like mine has been for quite a long time now, where it's just one thing after the other, and a lot's going on, and you're just trying to keep up. And this is a very easy thing to kind of keep you. It's a mood elevator. Gives you energy. That's all false, though, by the way, because it's almost like a credit card. It's coffee credit. I just made that up. You can have that for free too. It's coffee credit. So it means you're going to pay later, and with interest. You're going to pay for that. If you're borrowing energy from later, you're going to crash. And that crash often drives people to drink more coffee. Now this is where it gets ugly. At some point, especially if there's other things going on in your life or your health, your relationship with coffee changes as far as how your body reacts to it. There was times I could drink a cup of coffee and go to bed, be okay. Didn't keep me up. But it was like I became more sensitive to it, and also more sensitive to its spikes and its valleys. And even a number of years ago, I did a lot of research on it. I looked into adrenal fatigue, because I was dealing with fatigue that was in a lot of ways crippling. And I had to do a lot of studying about it. But I carried on with coffee, and there's times I've weaned off and gone down to tea, and then I've even gotten off of all of that. But that doesn't last very long. I find a reason, or there's a situation, and I have it again. It's just too much of a hassle to not have it, because it really seems to help. But there also comes a point, and it's taken me a year now after what I've learned. No, knowledge is power. Knowledge can help. Anyway, I read this book last year, and I would think that I would have quit immediately after everything I read about this. Caffeine Blues. It's not just about coffee, it's about caffeine. The health, there's lots of testimonials in here. This guy researched this. He's a doctor, I believe. All I know is the information is very credible, well researched, well presented, and the book's been out a long time. I wish I'd have gotten this in '98 and read it and made decisions based on it. This has helped me a great deal to recognize that, yes, this has to go. Let me see here. Just now I'm going to go on a tangent here. If there's any reviews. It's the first book. I don't remember what an MS is. That's why I say I think he's a doctor. I don't remember what that is. Maybe Master of Science. I don't know. The first book to expose the dark side of America's #1 drug, caffeine. And make no mistake, we've got a number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and on and on. We've got a lot of drugs that people are running around on. Somebody could be on caffeine, nicotine, and a couple of things from their doctor, both antidepressants and anti-anxiety stuff. Yet they're continuing with things that fuel their anxiety. Think of all the things that are so destructive. Stress and anxiety, and caffeine contributes a lot to that. And I know that for myself. I know that for myself because it can affect the way that my levels of, my muscles tensing up and things like that in different situations. And I like strong coffee. I like it to be strong. I like it to feel like that, and not just the strong of the caffeine, but I like that when it's bitter, and not like sometimes I'll go somewhere, especially like at a type of a public place where coffee is offered for free in little white styrofoam cups, or at church or something like that. It tastes like water with food coloring in it. It's just not that. It doesn't have much bite, and I like that. And how do I know it's just that? Because I've had decaffeinated coffee that's very strong, and I like that. All right, so if you're one of 80% of Americans hooked on caffeine, okay, there's our statistic, 80%. Now this was 98. I don't know what it is today, but let's say it's probably hasn't changed too much, because coffee has found more ways to be marketed and advertised, hasn't it, in your life? I know I was not. I don't think I was even really aware of Starbucks back in those days, and when this book came out. And Now there's like Bigsby and other places. Anyway, this book will be a wake-up call. The guy's a nutritional biochemist with 25 years of academic research and clinical experience. So let's see. Let's look at a review or two. I'm really trying to push you to read this book because when our minds are clear, when our moods are clear, I'm seeking purity in my life, pure living in all kinds of ways. This doesn't mean boring and dull. In fact, I've really finally in my life not only having a notion about it, but like being convinced of it. That I just need a very routine, not boring, but I mean more disciplined in so many ways, and a lot of things you might celebrate as being intuitive or artistic or things like this. And I don't know how much of that I can correct. That's not just how I'm made, but I've tried the last couple of years. I've been working on getting my circadian rhythms in tune, and it's not an easy thing to do. I've really made strides, but I'll tell you what, I go through a time where I have that extra coffee and things like that. If I can't sleep for a combination of reasons, and coffee's factored in there, it screws me up. And then what happens the next day? Maybe you got to get up at the same time for various reasons, and you need some coffee, and it's just lack of sleep can cause a lot of health problems as well. All right, so this guy, depression that's another big one. Okay, depression. So we've got. Okay, I'm going to run out of steam for this whole article, this whole video, but depression is gone. So I could do a whole creepy campfire video, and we're probably going to put this on the list these things are woven together. All right, all these things are related. We've got an epidemic of people on antidepressants and things, and not just for a month, 6 months. They've been taking it for years and years, or they switch them. I've actually known someone who started switching medications like every so many months because they helped a little bit at first, but it just stopped working, and I'm still depressed, whatever. Well, they're looking to get their cognitive functioning fixed through a pill when it could be a lot of other factors going on. And this guy goes into this and testimonials of there are people who once they got rid of the coffee, and I think this is where I am, a lot of the things I struggle with or deal with in my daily life, well, I could just name all the areas of your life, mental, emotional, physical, stamina, all these things would either completely clear up, or when I say mental, this is not a self-deprecating thing like I've got mental issues. That's not what I'm talking about. But mental is meaning, hey, I am not like everyone. I have times of being very, like I'm not on 24/7, I'm not on 24/7, and I have peak periods and peak functionality, peak focus, and things like that. And caffeine, and not just coffee, caffeine can really screw you up. So maybe even trying to read this as I'm, let me see if this will help, along with me here. Doesn't look like it's going to work on this. Oh wait, this is it. Yeah, this might help. Nope, it's not, because we can't seem to get the, can't seem to get to the reviews. I just want to read one. It's just random. I haven't even read it yet. So this guy says, I've been addicted to in a verified purchase. I've learned to be careful of this because I knew somebody who started up an Amazon business, and they called somebody else I knew, and they wanted them, without even having the product, to go on there and make a positive review. It's deception. It's a lie. It's a lie, and getting somebody else to lie with you. And I guess if you're registered with Amazon, you make a comment and you bought this. That's the only way that'll appear here. I have to trust in that. So I'm going to read it out loud. Okay, I'll make it a little bigger. one reason I got this reader is because I like this. I like to have the screen. You know, I find I try to be careful with my eyes. I have to look at the screen so much. I like to dim them. You know, I like to make it a little darker. All right, I've been addicted to caffeine as long as I can remember. At 5, I remember being elated when my dad would bring Coke home for me and my brother to drink. As a 10-year-old, I remember drinking Pepsi, Coke, Mountain Dew, and Dr. Pepper. Most days I go through 3. I'm going to try to skim it a little, speed it up. I go through 3 or 4 cans each day. In college, switched to Diet Coke. Oh, how many people? See, if you're still on Diet Coke, make that, if you're smoking, make that your number one priority. If you're a Diet Coke drinker, make that your number one priority. But once you get rid of the smoking and you're a diet drinker, because completely different chemical, but so many people have no compunction about drinking aspartame, and it's bad. Okay, and I entered college, switched to Diet Coke because of my fear of calories. Then after my first career job after college, I started drinking coffee, lots of coffee. I managed to stop drinking all caffeine when I was pregnant. Okay, there's a woman. Well, you don't know anymore, do you? Could be a transgender man, but I would think if they're talking in the past, she's 37, she says. So, yeah, probably is a woman. I'm going to say it's a woman. I'm an odds player. I think the odds are high it's a woman. What I'm saying is, just because somebody say they're pregnant these days, you can't bank on them. There was a woman. You've seen pictures. I haven't gotten into that too much, but it's revolting. It's abominable. I managed to stop drinking all caffeine when I was pregnant with both of my children. You know, I know a lot of people that the same with smoking. Now, why do you think that is? Why? Think about that. Why do you think that women who smoke can easily quit while they're pregnant? Is because their willpower? There's a grace for it. It's a protection of that child. That it's grace. It's a gift of God. And He'll give the gift again. You don't have to be pregnant to quit. Pray earnestly that you want to quit. Take the steps to quit, and the grace will be there. You know, and I mean, I've experiencing grace, and I'm being equipped to quit. One of them is coming across that book. You know, the only problem is change often takes longer than we want it to, but you got to keep trying. Don't just make a stab at it. That's not trying. You got to stay on. You got to stay on task. All right, but after sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sometimes 1 step forward, 2 steps back. But if you don't keep getting up and moving on, I said it 2 days ago. A righteous man falls 7 times, but he keeps getting back up. Whatever it is you're trying to quit, smoking, caffeine, cussing, I don't know, drinking, you name it, heroin, whatever. You keep after it, and you'll get the victory. You'll overcome it. But after I get on these tangents here. But after their births, I was back on my drug. Her mind straightened out. That's one thing. Same with alcohol. They always say drugs and alcohol. You know, coffee and cigarettes. Well, they're all drugs, and we need to change. Words are powerful. We need to frame them that way. I'm 37. My husband would comment on the enormous amount of caffeine I was consuming. This made me so angry, so I started lying about my caffeine consumption. You know, now all addicts, I don't know how much with caffeine. I mean, this is an instance with caffeine. I can't say I've lied about caffeine, but there would be something that I would even feel an urge to. But in this situation with a husband trying to get her to stop, she started lying. But most addicts are liars. They become a liar very easily. This made me so angry I started lying about my caffeine consumption. How many cups of coffee? And just take that with you. If you know somebody is addicted to, I mean, caffeine, I don't know, but anything stronger than caffeine, they're probably a liar as well. So factor that into your odds of anything you need to believe about them or trust them with. How many cups of coffee did you have today, he would ask. I would say 2, but really I had 4 or 5 throughout my big day. Big cups too, more like mugs. Eventually I started to feel lousy. I was short-tempered, nervous, depressed, and I craved sugar all the time. My sleep was horrible. I couldn't sleep very well and never felt rested no matter how hours of sleep I got. See, that was happening to me. several years back. I wake up tired. I would get, I'd feel better for a while, but then I'd be tired in the afternoon, and then, it just was a vicious cycle. I kept looking up online. Is caffeine bad for you? I would ask Google for answers. I would ask Jugal. I'm sorry, I mispronounced that. I would ask Jugal for answers. Most of the articles confused me. Some said yes, and some said no. Most said nothing, really. It's a gray area, it seemed. And I found that to be true as well. It did. I looked into it. And all you find out is the benefits. And then about, well, you can have too much, and, you can have a crash. But it wasn't anything like what you'll find out in this book. And I need to read it again. I should read it again right now, because I'm making another go at weaning off, because it was giving me some problems here just recently. Here's the problem. I found a good place to buy some good coffee, and they have a grinder, and I ground it. I thought this time, well, I'll make it Turkish ground. I like strong coffee. What can I say? So I'm gonna go for the best, and I'm not even talking about, and I don't buy super expensive coffee, but it's another expense, just like cigarettes. Man, if you knew how much money you're spending on, if you really counted. So I ground it Turkish blend, and it actually was kind of screwing up my machine because it was too compacted, and too fine. But nevertheless, I got a product out of it that was pretty good, had great, whatever you want to say, bold, rich flavor, whatever you want to color it as. It just had a little bite to it, and, well, caffeine, I think, was stronger in it because it was easily more extracted from it. And that's why, like right now, it's like, I didn't even finish. I thought, well, I'll just finish, and I've done this many times. I'll just finish this this coffee I have. I'll just finish that, then I'll quit. Well, I don't know I'm going to finish it. I definitely have gotten away from, at first I backed off. I'm like, well, I would have 2 cups in the morning. Now I'm just down to 1. Now, that may not sound like a lot to you, but I don't have a giant mug, but it's not a tiny mug either. But the coffee I like is pretty strong, but it's too much for me because there are other issues that are going on, sleep and stress and okay. Let me go on. Well, you're not stopping me. I am. So some said yes, some said no, most said nothing really. It's great. However, I felt deep down coffee was killing me, and that's where I've felt too. I've have more intense feelings sometimes than others, but I just know that like you, and I'll tell you, the Bible say that you have no need of no teacher really, that He will teach you. Now He may use people to do it, use information, but He leads you in He leads you beside the still waters, the Bible say. He'll lead you in paths of righteousness for His name's sake. If you belong to Him, He's the author and finisher of your faith. He'll lead you from grace to grace, and He's going to sanctify you wholly, and He's going to do it. He's going to do it and lead you in the way. We have to yield to Him. There is a give and take here. It's not like God just does it because we want Him to. We'd love to say, Lord, I don't want to smoke anymore. Take away the feeling. Well, think in the Old Testament, the Israelites, that they were commanded to go in and take the land, or go in and drive these, the wicked ones out, and this. They had to do it. Yeah, couldn't the Lord just to consume them? Sure. But they had to do it. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. However, I felt deep down the coffee was killing me, so I stopped. If you feel that about smoking or whatever it is, you know that the Lord's dealing with you, and yield to start doing whatever you can. Watch YouTube videos, get a book, talk to somebody, just take a multi-pronged approach, So I went cold turkey. I don't recommend cold turkey. I had splitting headaches, nausea, and I could not concentrate on anything. Then eventually, after 3 days, I started to feel better. And by the way, I don't know this from personal experience, but this is what the Seventh-day Adventists have a stop smoking program. You don't have to be or become a Seventh-day Adventist to participate in it and benefit from it. They'll have a drive, if you will, like I don't know how many times a year, once, twice, or maybe I don't think it's once a month. You can look into it, but if you want to quit smoking, for example, you can go and attend, and you learn a lot of facts, a lot of things. And one of them is that the physical addiction, if you were tied down or locked in a room for 3 days without nicotine, the physical addiction is gone. You don't have it anymore. You're done. Now you need to physically heal, and there may be some urges that are there for psychological and other reasons, or you don't feel really good and you got this psychological reason that smoking made you think you felt better, but you're not addicted. Not physically. Your flesh is not craving that like your fleshly mind is. Okay. So then eventually after 3 days I started to feel better. Whenever I quit cold turkey, I start getting, I'm just telling you, not reading it, I'll get headaches in 3 days. Like, it'll be the second or third day, then I start getting headaches, start feeling terrible. I don't know why that is, but anyway, I found this book and purchased it. It confirmed exactly what I thought. I was killing myself with caffeine. I am now 1 month free of caffeine. I've lost 6 pounds. Now this ties into cortisol. And I recommend a guy online named Dr. Berg that fantastic. I think this guy is a true healer, and does a lot of work in this area and of stress, and cortisol, and things. And cortisol kind of keeps us with fat. I've lost 6, and caffeine keeps us stressed out on a number of levels. I have lost 6 pounds. I sleep better at night. And also lack of sleep increases your cortisol and things. And my depression is gone. Okay? That's tremendous. This added years to this woman's life. This added years to her marriage. Think about it. You think any man wants to live with I don't know what 6 pounds looked on her, but you know what that looked like on her. 6 pounds in some people can make a big difference. But maybe your husband is not interested in her because she's a bitch, because she's cranky, because she's moody. She's moody. Women have a reputation of being emotional and moody for other reasons. And getting away with a lot of it's like, well, they're just different and that's how they're made, and they're more emotional. Well, let me tell you something. You crank in cigarettes addiction, and you crank in caffeine addiction, and now they're all over the place like nobody's business. They are miserable creatures to be around. I'm not saying they're miserable, but you know who's more miserable? Their man. Yeah, that chick can be moody, have problems, and be irritable, or be cranky, or be fly off the handle, whatever. But guess who's really suffering? Is the person that has to deal with that shit. Excuse my language. Pardon me. That I didn't mean that for that one to come out. Okay. I've lost 6 pounds. I sleep better at night, and my depression is gone. If you are curious about caffeine being bad, then I suggest you read this book. As that's what I'm doing here. I'm amazed at how my depression is lifted. Sometimes I find myself smiling for no reason. I was not draining my cups of coffee. Wait a minute. I was not draining my coffee cups. My coffee was draining me. Oh, I like that. That's a good one. So the Lord wants us to be joyful, because Bible say the joy of the Lord is our strength. We need to be strong these days. Oh man, we need to be stronger than. There have been horrible times in every time, but the battle has changed. It's not as clear as it is of an invading army. The war is on our minds and our hearts, mostly. There's a war on our bodies too. One of them is in our country, anyway, our nation. Every time you see all these ads for pharmaceuticals and things like that, whatever the economy's doing, up or down, that industry's booming. And it's booming because our medical industry, allopathic, if you don't know what that means, look it up. And just briefly, what it means is, now I read it, by the way, I read it online. I'd like to have hard copy, but you can find it maybe online for somewhere, maybe. But Kindle's a lot cheaper. I like hard books. Your library probably has it. Caffeine Blues. remember that. Every time I try to look it up to talk to somebody, I always want to say the coffee myth. Maybe that'd be a great title for a book, but it's Caffeine Blues, fantastic book. It's life-changing. So when I say make a multi-pronged approach, whether it's, you know what, I jumped off, Sarah. Lord, in these day and age, the pharmaceuticals are just all around us. It's horrible. Everything from, the last 50 years, children being prescribed Ritalin to being epidemic, and now they've got lots of, what do you got? Adderall, I think Concerta is one of them, Ritalin, and there's probably another couple of them, and they prescribe them to children without ever looking at what they're eating, what their home life is like, what they're doing, I guess these days with electronic devices, what's their digital habits, I mean, listen, Uncle Benny's you can start calling me Dr. Uncle Benny. No, forget the uncle part. Call me Dr. Benny, right? Because that's more healing than what I just said than what most allopathic doctors do when they are looking at they're looking at what's the teacher say he acts like during the day, what's he like at home? Does he get along with other children? They've got their list of questions and they're doing their quote due diligence. But do they say, I'm going to come to your house, I'm going to look in your cabinet and see how many boxes of sugar pops there are, and I'm gonna stay with you a day or two, and I want to watch your child and see what they're like in the morning until they've had their Pop-Tarts. Well, first of all, we're going to cut that stuff out, right? We're also going to take an inventory of everything they're eating and see what chemicals are in there. It's epidemic. And so I'm just talking about that particular type of a drug for children. But, make no mistakes, adults, they run to their doctor all the time for drugs, for all kinds of stuff. A lot of times it's depression. Okay, well, thanks, Jim Gaffigan. So I want to talk about, he jokes about his weight. I mean, he's probably, according to scales, I mean, he talks about his weight and what he loves to eat and things like this, but, if he's as big a coffee drinker is and he eats as unhealthily as he sort of plays himself to be, and he does look like he's got some issues with his weight. His eyes were all bloodshot. He just doesn't look healthy. And, I don't think we should laugh at that, I wonder if there's anybody in his life that would say to him, Mr. Gaffigan, what is your coffee like? I mean, that's all well and good. You made that joke, but now you're he's marginalizing people who are not coffee drinkers. And it's kind of funny, on the face of it, it's funny. But the reality is, it's killing people. It's killing people. And it's not the way it should be. It's throwing people out of balance. It's making addicts out of people. All right. So I'm not ready for this one. So now that we've had that, let's get on to something a little more upbeat. I'm going to close the Drudge report now. We don't need to go back to it. I've gone so long already. I really wish this was just 20 minutes. But, So, all right. I want to start with this site here. David Byrne. The intro music I had, I wasn't going to play any, but I really wanted to hear the song. And I'm a fan of David Byrne. I was a fan of the Talking Heads, The song I played was called Hey Now, off of True Stories, which is a little movie as well. And it gives a little insight into David Byrne because he plays the main character. He's a little different. I love it, though. He wrote a book on bicycles that I have, and he rides his bike everywhere, and I'm glad to see that he still is. So I saw this the other day. A lovely person on social media had shared this news, and I was glad to see it because I like David Byrne a lot, and I went to Reason to Be Cheerful. Now this is something in a sense that I'm doing here with the Drudge Report. That's one reason I liked it. Secondly, years ago, before I ever got into framing news in the Word of God, I knew what it was like to experience the doom and gloom, like everything just terrible. And the news didn't seem even half as bad back then. I remember it bummed me out, and I'm like, why? I did say this. I'm like, why didn't somebody just have a good news channel? Occasionally they'll end a story on some little human interest story, or in the news broadcast on some little human interest story on upbeat. But they focus. And this is how I got this way. I'm telling you, because I was aware that they're going to find a bus crash in India, way deep in way deep in India, a bus crash that killed a bunch of people needlessly. We don't even know the details other than it's death, and it's a story that we didn't have anything better to beat you over the head and harden your heart with. I knew that a long time ago. And I would say, how to be a good news channel. But I also instinctively knew it isn't going to sell. It probably isn't going to sell. Maybe he's got a shot here nowadays. I don't know. People, I think there is a need. People they're getting to a point, I think, where you can't. You have to get numb to it. And then I have the good fortune, and I need to tell her about this. I know someone, I have a friend in Honduras who started in their country. They started trying to do a positive stories type of a site, and I don't know how that's going. I need to get in contact with them again. I haven't talked to them for a long time. I know it wasn't that easy. With anything you do, you've got to, I hardly have any views here. Well, I don't do any marketing really, other than I might post it a place or two on social media, maybe 3 places, and maybe 4 maybe. I don't know where the traffic's exactly coming from. You can't trust the tracking stuff. But anyway, let me just get into it. Reason to be cheerful. So, and that's why I played that happy song, Hey Now. If you watch the video too, it's a little different than the studio version. It's children playing, singing the song, walking through like an empty lot. It's fun. So, reason to be cheerful. And it says 2018. Well, I just saw the story yesterday, and it made it sound like it was on NPR just this past week. So, I don't know. Maybe it's still going. We'll see, because I registered to get their weekly updates, and we'll see what it's all about. So we'll see. But the first time I put in Uncle Benny's email address, it gave me an error. Something went wrong. So I made sure made sure it was spelled. Everything's perfect, and it seems to be all right. Anyway, he says it's starting an online project. A reason to be cheerful. Okay, so you can read it. All these links, by the way, I did put these on. They're in the description. I imagine, like a lot of you look back over the past year, it seems like the world is going to hell. I wake up in the morning and look at the paper and go, oh no, I'm often depressed for half the day. Now, when I read this the other day, this bummed me out. David Byrne, very successful, very talented, very nice guy. He just seems like a good human being, and that he's got a lot of positive energy around him. Now, we never know what goes on with people, but he says he's depressed for half the day. Come on, man. I that sort of disappoints me a bit. That kind of lets me down. I can't. It's found it hard to fathom that he would have that kind of an issue. Well, I wonder now, this might even speak to his politics possibly, because if this happened in 2018, especially if it was early 2018, let me think. When did the character Donald Trump come into office? No, it was 2016. He was elected in 2017, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, it's 2017. So this is early 18. I'm wondering if that's part of it. Maybe he's not talking about it like I'm talking about it, like all these things going on with the news, what's coming at us. Again, 2 years ago, we were hearing a lot about, even overseas, there were Islamic Mohammedans shooting people up in theaters and or at concerts, and in Manchester, and Christmas truck bombs, Christmas markets, and you name it, right? So who knows? But it made me wonder. Again, I should probably not go off on my spontaneous thoughts when I go through this. It slows me down. But I'd hate to find out like he is still like a Democrat, but he lives in New York, so that's most of them are, and I think he'd have a hard time getting along if he wasn't. All right, so yeah, he no matter how you voted in the Brexit, French elections, or the U.S. election, many of us of all persuasion and party affiliations feel remarkably similar. Well, he's trying to straddle the fence here. As a kind remedy and possibly kind of therapy, I started collecting good news that reminded me, hey, there's some positive stuff going on. And that's wonderful. I think it's great. My first reaction before I read any of this, I almost replied to this individual who I hardly know, and they hardly know me at all, but I wanted to comment, I give it 6 months. So I don't know if it's still going. Good for them. He's done it. Then I was going to add to that. Okay, because he can sub out the work. He can afford to do that. Most likely, I'm going to give it maybe a year. But or it'll be shrouded, or it'll close under the auspices of it being it was a project. It was an art installation. So, because I don't know if he could sustain it, But, one thing I put the verse in there. Blessed are those that hunger and thirst after righteousness, so they will be filled. They shall be filled. That's what the Bible says, right? And it's in Matthew 5. And that's a wonderful promise, because when we see all this stuff, all this corruption, all the lies, all the spin, all the just grotesque things going on, and we're craving, just like the disciples were in the times of Roman occupation in Jerusalem and religious oppression and whatever, all the things that were making their life hard, they were hungering for things to be made right, Not to mention whatever else. Obviously, they had lepers and things going on around there. They didn't have, apparently, the hospitals and medicine that we do to deal with certain things. So he healed the blind we still have blind and lame people today. But the Master went around and graciously healed people to demonstrate and reveal who he was. Those were proofs to the world and ages to come that this man is who he claims to be. He is the Son of God. And anyway, they had people that they passed by regularly that were lepers or unclean that way, or crippled or blind. And the world's not right. They're hungering after righteousness. They shall be filled. Well, in that day, they got to see that. That's wonderful. And, we're his. We will get to see that too, whether we live to see it or whether we are resurrected to see it. Things will be made right. But God bless David Byrne for not feeding on the bad stuff, but actually wanting to feed on the good stuff. And I hope he continues to do it. I wish him success in this. He's also, whether he knows it or not, fulfilling Philippians 4:8, which says, whatever's lovely, whatever's true, if anything has a virtue, focus on those things. And the peace of God that passes understanding will be with you. And, he wants peace. He wants peace in his mind. He says he's often depressed half the day. He wakes up in the morning. We hear the phrase, look at the paper. Feeds on the garbage that they give us. Okay? He look at the morning and eats garbage and doesn't feel good the rest of the day. Can we just get an amen? That's what he's saying in so many words. I wake up in the morning, I eat garbage, and then I go, oh no, I feel sick for half the day. Now he's making his own food. See how it's done? It's that simple. Now I hope he keeps it up. And anyway, let me move over here to the project. If there's anything else to see about that. Seemed like there was. He rides his bike everywhere. He even has a bike he takes with him when he travels and rides in foreign cities. He's a neat guy and talented. I like him. I wish one day I could meet him or talk to him. I like him. But the thing is that he will still. I like this. Things aren't all bad. I love it. It's great. So if he's hungry, you can't have righteousness without truth. And even if he's doing all this, he will still have that lingering depression and doom and gloom if he does not know Christ. Because even though all these things going on in the world, the Bible says men shall wax worse and worse. We're seeing it. And that things will just get worse and worse, We're seeing it. All the things going on even in the physical earth, the roaring of the seas, with the hurricanes, the tsunamis, the wars, rumors of wars. It's not going away. And he could easily get discouraged again, but if he hungers and thirsts after true righteousness, he'll seek the Lord if he doesn't already know him. Now, I often make an assumption, I'm an odds player, as I say. A guy like David Byrne is not, he's not Christ. He doesn't necessarily believe Jesus Christ was the Savior, or that he needs a Savior. And I say that because anybody who's like in a power and position that he is in of influence, if you've been saved from your sins, you're not going to hide that candle under a bushel, no. Okay? You're going to make a noise about it. You're going to shout it from the mountaintops, in essence. One way or the other, it's going to come out. And I've never heard any kind of thing like that about him. You hear stars and celebrities and politicians all the time say, "Oh, I believe there's a God. I believe in a higher power. I believe." I heard Sammy Hagar talking about it when he was asked about it by, maybe it was Dan Rather. Somebody was interviewing him, and he said, "Oh, he believed in God." And I like Sammy Hagar. Wasn't a big fan of his music in any incarnation of it, but I've had occasion to see interviews with him, and he just has a certain joy to be. Is that the word I'm looking for? Joy of life. There's something about him I like, but at the same time, being a good person or being a nice person is not salvation. It's not the righteousness that we all need, because no matter how, there are some people who are really bad through and through. There's others that they're good to other people, they're nice, they don't lie, cheat, or steal, but we're all sinners in need of salvation, Anyway, okay, this is going on way too long. So David Byrne, I really like him. I think that's great what he's doing. Wish him the best. And I'm really thankful that that person on social media shared that, because I might not have come across that. And it may be old news, because that was 2018, and I hadn't seen it until now. All right, so this, you can be assured, I'm only just pointing this out to get to the other article. Investigators seize enough fentanyl to kill 14 million in massive drug bust. Well, I'd seen this first, and I haven't read it, and I don't need to read it, but this morning I saw this one, and the article in DEA agents ambushed Amtrak passengers with controversial search and seizure. I think that's what Drudge used as the title. And I like train travel and things like that. And so that kind of jumped out at me. And I wondered, when I read through this is the one that infuriated me in a right way. It was kind of, this is what I'm saying in the title. It's like reasons to be happy, reasons to get mad. Because as Howard Beale says, first you've got to get mad. You've got to say, God damn it, I'm a human being and I'm not going to take it anymore. Not going to take the goddamn lies and goddamn more lies. Okay? They're all lies, and if you're a religious person who just bounced out of here, well, have a nice day. Okay, so because liars are doomed. God will damn them. And what that looks like, it doesn't matter. That's all there is to know about that. It's like, eternal death. Okay, they won't have eternal life. At any rate, so in that article, this talks about this woman who had like this huge bag of fentanyl. I thought, well, is this related? Because sometimes these stories are. I went over it, and it's not. So I just still had this up. But fentanyl, in case you don't know, it's this artificial painkiller, which is really powerful. It's used in hospitals and things, but now it's a street drug as well. It gets mixed in with heroin, which, by the way, we are protecting those fields, over, if you don't know this, over in Afghanistan. So every time you wave that flag and salute the troops and say thank you for your service, well, you're thanking them for helping keep the heroin epidemic growing over here, by the way, unless you know what you're talking about or know who you're talking to when you say that. Anyway, I just brushed by a big, huge topic there, and maybe you bounced out on that one. I don't know. Doesn't matter to me. I don't care if you watch this or not. I would love for somebody to say, what the hell is he talking about? I need to look into that. I'd love for that to happen. So bad. All right, I almost want to make this a separate thing, and this was the story that made me realize I need to do one today. And maybe I'm going to come back to it, I think. I'll just tell you the brief, and you can look it up and read it yourself. This should make you furiously mad. Now, I've been aware of this for a while. This gets into the fact that the DEA is getting on Amtrak trains. They've been doing it a long time, and they even paid, I'm going to just break it down for you here. They paid Amtrak people or persons to supply them with the lists instead of reporting it to the Amtrak police, because I guess Amtrak has police. I didn't know that before I read this article, but whatever, they were making a lot of money, some of these agents, or at least the one they refer to in here, to supply these DEA agents with tips, and they're informants, and they would not just single out those people, it sounds like, but they would actually walk a car. They would ask people to look in their bags. They want to search them, and most people just let them. This is wrong on so many levels. And if I was in a car like that and I saw that going on, I'd be getting up out of my seat and I would just shout to them, you do not have to do that. They need a warrant, unless they have real probable cause. Now, they go in to explain that what they have is, of course, sometimes there are exceptions to that. So if like you've got a drug sniffer dog, and they come along and they alert. Well, maybe you're not aware of this, but these dogs don't always alert. First of all, your money, I think they've even shown like almost all money has cocaine on it. Excuse me. These dogs are not 100% perfect, and these handlers also know how to manipulate these dogs. This happens a lot of times. Traffic stops. They'll show up with the canine and they'll say the dog alerted, and then they'll search the car. I mean, it's just such a workaround. Okay. Now, many times is there really drugs there? Is there really a reason? Yeah, but there's also times there's not. It's just a pretense. But that's their way around illegal search and seizure. The other way around is just to ask people who don't recognize how offensively wrong that, un-American and offensively wrong that is. In fact, you're only feeding a monster of people abusing authority. All right, so I'm getting my energy to do this, but I really do want to break it down just briefly, but there's so much to say about this. This article is super long, and I read a lot of it. Usually when they're this long, I'll get this far into it, and I'm like, forget it. I don't need to read anymore. But this one just kept getting worse and worse. It was unbelievable. And there were so many things in here to just riff off of that were just outrageous. And it's hard to believe that it's going on one hand. On the other hand, it's like it's so bad out there that, honey, I just want to get rich and get the hell out of here, because this is horrible. People don't know their rights. They applaud people who have violated other people's rights. When I say people, I mean there are people who are bootlickers, there are people who are cop worshipers, and some who are both. Okay? Just like people who are soldier worshipers. Well, they think, oh, they got the bad guy. When they just violated the guy's rights, wrecked his life and family, and maybe there was a reason to have more than an accusation on him, but they just shook him down just on the fact of what they call a cold consent encounter. So cops patrolling train stations are typically using a tactic that law enforcement calls cold consent encounter. They approach people cold. I mean, they just walked up to you sitting there. On thin evidence, they are drug couriers. And the passengers consent to the searches. Now, does this mean they only go up to the ones who they suspect to be in drug couriers? I doubt it. Do you think there's any of these agents that sort of enjoy shaking people down? Or do you think there's any merit in shaking a few people down ahead of the one you know might be? Excuse me. Or how do you even know what seat they're sitting in? You know, and on airlines, you mostly are probably sitting in a seat that they know you're supposed to sit in. But on trains, it generally is not that way. At least to my experience and knowledge over the years. But now, let me just skip ahead here. One of the other things going on here, and maybe you can take this away and be valuable to you or someone you know. Be careful if you fly or go anywhere with very much cash, because they'll take it. If you walk through any kind of a security thing, whatever let's say you're going somewhere, you're going to be there a long time, or you're going to move, or let's say you're a renter and you decide you're relocating and you don't have a new bank there or anything like that, but you closed all your accounts here. You're going with like 10 grand in your pocket. They might just take that money and claim, well, because the money's guilty. That's what they say in this article even. They can do it because the money's guilty. Now, you could try to get it back, and there's been people who have. It's called civil forfeit or something like that. If you can try to get back, but how much is it going to cost you, and how long will it take? Oh yeah, they've wrecked people with this. They've bankrupted people with this practice. It's a mob. And I say mob, I mean like a mafia. It's street thugs. Are there? I'm not. Don't seriously. I don't have to explain it to you. Every single one is not like this, but it's pretty epidemic, it seems. And the policy that allows anyone who wants to exercise this kind of grift or corruption or abuse of power can do it. They make laws to help them break laws, right? They can make a law to help them violate your laws, or your rights, which is breaking laws. If someone violates your rights, they've broken really the law of the land. Yeah, that's the Constitution of the United States, and your Bill of Rights that have been spelled out. They make laws so they can break laws. If this is a picture of the guy they talk about a lot in this article, this is one wicked man. Yeah, that's him. So he has done some things that are pretty shady. This is not a right-hearted dude. I pray for Jay Perry. I pray that he is convicted of his sins, just like Zacchaeus, the tax collector. The Lord had a plan and purpose for him, and he said, I will pay back everyone sevenfold of what I've taken from them. This guy is in the name of like stopping the drug war. He's fighting the drug war. Yeah, he's also destroying this country. He's abusing his power, asking women to search their purses and bags because he asked them, they do it because he showed them a badge. It's not how it works, people. And the men in authority like this, who gain authority one way or the other, or who maybe were good cops and now they've gone sideways because they get off on it. They don't have right hearts, and they don't understand what this country's about. And there are more and more and more of them partly because they're hiring people that aren't that smart. I'm not saying he isn't. Seems pretty savvy to me from what I read. But they're also hiring foreign people, be policemen that maybe don't have the proper background of understanding. People can say they swear to uphold the Constitution and protect and defend and serve all they want, but do they really mean it? Do they really know what they're saying? I say not. Apparently, the evidence says no. The evidence shows that there's people like this guy. Let's see. Now, I'm not saying he doesn't do any good by his practice, but this is like meatball surgery. I don't know. That's a terrible maybe analogy, but okay. Here you go. Here's a for instance. More problematically, Perry has been captured on surveillance footage boarding empty Greyhound buses and pulling bags out of the checked luggage bin. One clip captures him pressing on a bag so aggressively that he appears to be tackling it. He's trying to feel what's in it, right? But he stops short of opening the bag, which would be blatantly unconstitutional. Well, this is a guy who will take it to the limit. This is a guy who will give him an inch and he's going to try to take a mile, right? Several people that Perry has seized cash from insist that they are not drug couriers. In fact, were never criminally charged as such, but that didn't help them get their money back. Let's see here. Let's give you. I got to give you for instance on the money. This, it is not freedom when you have to fear if you get on a train and you've got $1,000 cash or more, or a lot of cash. I'll read you two instances here because I read this one, and you'll hear the story. Let's see here. See, this is a long article. It's a lot of stuff. Some of it's job security. They keep making busts. They keep a job, right? And then they get that nice retirement, that nice pension when they're in their 40s, early 50s. A lot of police seem to retire after like 20 years or something. Special Agent Perry. Oh, he's special, all right. He's a special kind of bad because it looks like he's good, but it's not. It's not, right? There's a lot of horrible allegations towards him, and the way he's treating people. Just a moment. This is important. Here we go. It's a rapper. Joseph Rivers, a rap musician from Detroit who performs as Joe Cush, boarded the Southwest Chief in Chicago in 2015 when he was 22, hoping to get his music career off the ground in LA. He remembers a man asking every passenger. Now this is important. He didn't just go into, like I said, I don't think they have any assigned seats, right? So they can go to seat, J12 and know that that's the guy that they're been following, or they see, they list a couple reasons why they might target somebody, like buying a one-way ticket. What's sense of that as a crime, right? Well, they're going from a major city they're going from, they mentioned one, like somewhere in New Mexico they're going from here to New York. So that's a possible drug route, and they bought a one-way ticket. So we're going to search them, target them. It's wrong on so many levels. Every passenger in the car, if they would consent to have their bag searched for contraband. And what happens when the four people in front of you say, sure, no problem, I've done nothing wrong, because we're all been under mind control that you've done nothing wrong, you shouldn't have anything to hide. If you got nothing to hide, you shouldn't have a problem with it. Bullshit. How about I come to your house right now and go through your drawers? How'd you like that? I want to look in your medicine cabinet. Oh, you haven't done anything wrong. You shouldn't have to worry about it. Well, you're not an agent. You're not an officer. What difference does it make? Does it really matter who they are? Because you don't know them any more than you know me. They're just operating on some, I hate this word because it's used all the time with the gender stuff, but under some construct that they have the right and authority to do this. And they're just a stranger who's shaking you down at their leisure, their pleasure, and you're under their authority. You're submitted to them. You've given up all your rights, and you've allowed them to be a god over you. And what do I always say? They want domination and control. They being the powers that shouldn't be. Rivers responded yes, just like everyone else. Because what's going to happen? They go through the 4 people in front of you who are just idiots, fluoridated, public, government schools educated, soap watching, going to the movies, heavy drinkers. Who knows? They're idiots with soft brains and no heart. And they just like submit. They're bootlickers. And they're cop worshippers. Thank you for your service. And they open up their bags and they go through 4 of them. They come to you and you're like, you clutch your bag. You say, nope. Now what? Now if the cop or whoever, I'm just calling him a cop, the agent starts getting a little bit testy with you, the people in front of you, they're going to be on the side of that agent. Because now you're going against the social conditioning of that little world, that little car. Now everybody's suspicious of you. Well, we had nothing to hide, and nothing happened to us, and we're fine. We went through it. And what are you hiding? Maybe the guy just knows his rights and knows that this guy needs a check, meaning he needs. But what's going to happen? What if he gets pushy? What if he says, well, he looked like he was reaching for something. I tased him. The guy died of a heart attack. This stuff happens. And it's wrong. It's like I said, this article is just like quintessentially just fury. So Rivers responded yes, just like everyone else had. The agent took him up on it. He's 22. 22, a rapper. And he just, I don't know, is he a black guy? I don't know. Odds are high, he's a black guy. Rap musician from Detroit. Okay, puts the odds, he's a black guy. But he, probably gets into the yes or no, sir, doesn't want any trouble. Well, you might be thinking, am I going to get to where he had drugs on him, He didn't. He said yes. Just like everyone else had. And the agent took him up on it. Special Agent Perry quickly found bundles of cash in Rivers' bag totaling $16,000. Rivers said it was all the money he had, that he had gotten it from his mother, and that he was using it to film a music video. Perry listened to his story, then explained that the DEA would be seizing the cash. You know what? I don't know if that's BS or not, but he's innocent until proven guilty, and having money is not a crime, whether it's cash or otherwise. But they made it a crime because now he's going to LA. Well, he must be lying. This must be drug money. He must be a money courier for drugs. He may have been telling the absolute God's honest truth. Either way, guess what? Even if he said it was all the money he had, he was making an emotional appeal. It's like, don't take all the money I have. That's all I've got. It's my world. It's my mom's savings. It's what I worked for. It's everything. We sold stuff. Whatever. My mom sold her SUV so I could make my dream come true. Whatever. It's none of this Special Agent Perrier's goddamn business. None of his business. You have a right to privacy. Rivers said it was all the money he had and he'd gotten it from his mother that he was using to make a film video. Perry listened to his story, then explained that DEA would be seizing the cash. Now, if they seize that cash wrongfully, which it appears they did, how does he get it back? Well, guess what he says here. Rivers was stunned. He was the only black person. Okay, he's a black guy, right? He did have a prior record, and this doesn't help. But did that agent know that? Did he know that at the time? It doesn't say, and I don't know. But even so, you got to prove that. You can't just because the guy has cash, just take it and then try to backwards engineer that it came from a drug deal. Right? Maybe it did. I don't know. But he's just carrying cash, and they took it from him. You would think if that was the reason, that he would have said to him, we'd be seizing the cash because we know what you did for a living for the past 2 years in Detroit. We've been watching you. That's different. It's different. Rivers later learned that this was all legal until civil forfeiture. A quirk. Just a quirk. It's just a quirk of the American criminal justice system. I tell you what, if you had all the money you had in the world seized from you, you're going to let them call that a quirk? It's just a quirk. in which a person's property can be seized even if they are not convicted or even accused of a crime. Like I said, the guy didn't say, we know because you had a record back there, you'd been busted with the joint, you know. This much money must have all come from drug dealing, you know. So he had a record for possessing and allegedly delivering. So they had on record that he was accused of delivering and manufacturing it. They dismissed the felony gun possession charge. I don't know. Who knows? He probably was involved with pot one way. He changed his last name to Kush, which I think has something to do with weed. But it doesn't matter. Here's what they say. We don't have to prove this person is guilty. It's the money that's presumed to be guilty. Well, you know, they say in this country that you have a right, you're innocent until proven guilty, but the police don't have to, they can't operate presuming everyone's innocent until proven guilty. They got to assume you're guilty of something before you're arrested. So that makes it seem like, well, that makes it okay they take his money. No, do you realize how difficult, if the guy's innocent, it is to get this money back? How devastating that is? It better be like, just like the death penalty with somebody. It better be like airtight, like this person is absolutely, indisputably, no shadow of doubt guilty of what we're, for the death penalty. You're going to take somebody's money off their body in an unwarranted search and seize it all? You better have an airtight, beyond reasonable doubt, they're never going to get that money back because they never should have had it in the first place because they got it from, something bad, And I'm not getting into a judgment on whether or not cannabis should be legal or something like that, that's another topic altogether. But the point is like these violations of our rights. This is why, I'm not a criminal defense attorney, and if I was going to be one, or be an attorney, that might be one I wanted to, because you want to make sure that the powers that are going to incarcerate someone or whatever they're going to do to somebody, whatever the kind of crime it is, that they operate properly, that the defendant's rights are protected. And I must add this because I just saw something the other day, I forgot, like a news guy was saying, it's unbelievable they pleaded not guilty to these crimes. It's like, that not guilty is a plea, it's a legal term. There's a lot of effects of that, and it seems like most people, even the media, report things as like, like it's astonishing if somebody pleads not guilty when they're so clearly guilty, or they haven't had their trial yet. Trial makes sure that evidence is presented properly, that they're convicted rightfully. When you just plead guilty, you give up a lot of rights. You give up a lot of procedure. If everyone just pled guilty under accusations, even if they were, it would not be a healthy system. Think about it that way. People need to be practicing their craft of following the rules. That's why a judge will keep attorneys in line. They're supposed to, Okay, this is too much here. I gotta wrap this up. I can't believe this video might be one of my longest ever. There are industries that are on the fringes, but not actually illegal, she said in an interview. Beth is a pseudonym. Okay, let's see. I may have scrolled past what this one happened. 3 years later, in February 2018, a woman called Beth boarded the Southwest Chief in Chicago, headed west. She was returning home from California after a business trip. What type of business, she doesn't want to say. Well, I'm gonna speculate. The odds might be high that she went to California. She's maybe some kind of model, or wanted to get in the porn industry, or something like that. And she went out there and got paid in cash for an industry on the fringes, but not actually illegal. See, I mean, what are the odds here? What kind of industry is on the fringe that's not illegal, that she was ashamed to talk about? It's something to do with pornography. She even used a pseudonym. See, Beth is a pseudonym. The man who appeared outside her sleeper car was charming, Beth remembered, but persistent. She initially declined to let the special agent Perry search her room after letting him search 2 of her smaller bags. Wow, he got to search her bags, And then he wanted to search her room. This guy's like a predator of ostensibly a good sort. No, she later saw him interviewing other passengers. He's mostly doing it to Latina people, maybe doing the immigration. Sure, I wasn't sure. Who is this guy? Why is he harassing people? I don't think I even read this far. I'm guessing that he took money from her, because she wouldn't let him search if it was drugs. I wouldn't think. I don't know. Who is this guy? Why is he harassing people? She interrupted Perry while he interviewed a group of Hispanic women downstairs, asked to see his credentials. Okay, I noticed you're pretty nervous. Can you tell me why you're nervous? Perry responded. Beth, not wanting to start a fight with the police officer, agreed to let him follow her back upstairs to her sleeper car. With Beth's permission. Again, just not very smart or educated. Perry opened a suitcase she had stowed away in her room. You know, it doesn't matter that she didn't do anything wrong. You don't just like give up your rights to some jackboot who wants you to. Yeah, you have to learn how to stand in your rights. And that's where most people are cowards and spineless, and we've been conditioned that anybody wearing a uniform, or in some title of authority, that you need to submit to them. No, ma'am. No, sir. Your authority needs to be God. Your authority needs to be truth and righteousness, and that's where you operate within. And a lot of that's framed in the law, hopefully. These days, not so much anymore. A lot of laws pervert justice, pervert truth, pervert what's right and decent. That's right. Perry opened a suitcase she had stowed away in her room. It was filled with nothing but bundles of cash wrapped in tissue paper. Okay, so I would imagine, I don't know how many bundles of cash. It doesn't seem, they don't make that much money from what I understand, but who knows how long she was out there. I don't know. The only money I've ever seen rubber banded up in increments like that is drug money. He and his partner left the train with the cash packed away in plastic evidence bags. The government later sued to keep what they said was nearly 70 grand that Beth had been carrying. You know, this might be, she might have been a model and went out there, and somebody extremely rich, she was, basically a prostitute for a month or a period of time. I don't know, because I don't think somebody, especially if they don't live out there and is in the industry, is going to fly out there, take a train, whatever, do a movie or two, do a few films, and then make that kind of money. The U.S. government later sued to keep what they said was nearly They later sued to keep their confiscated money here. Beth hired a lawyer and pulled transcripts from Perry's recorder. Thankfully, she recorded it, arguing that the search wasn't consensual. But in March 2019, Beth signed a document agreeing to forfeit the cash rather than testify under oath where it came from. They leveraged her sense of shame where it came from. Maybe she was doing, she could have been doing a number of things, but maybe it was prostitution and it wasn't legal or something like that. But they need to prove that. I don't believe they should be able to seize your assets. This is the way it's gotten flipped around. Seizing her assets before they know that she's done a crime. It's because she had the assets that they want a backwards point that she must have done a crime. You see? I'm not a drug courier. They were just so bent on making their narrative fit. Now, she used a pseudonym here. She went way out of state to do whatever she did to make that money for whatever reason she needed to make that money. She feels a great deal of shame. She's a Midwestern girl. She's a Midwestern girl who knows what she was going through, what hard time she had. Who knows what conspired that she was in a position where she did something she's ashamed to talk about. But these guys, they shot, they scored. There may have been something to it, but that's wrong. That's wrong. You want to bust her for a crime, you bust her for a crime, and any money associated with it, then okay. But you don't just because somebody has money, because that means, like I said, what does it mean for you? You watching this all the way through probably are not going to be doing nefarious things. But you might decide to take a trip and go somewhere for 6 months, and you might bring, $10,000, or maybe you put a lot of it in traveler's checks. I don't know. Whatever you do, you need to think about this, because anything that's substantial, they could just take it, and you have to prove. It's like you're guilty until you prove that money's guilty until you prove that it's not. But that's going to take. I've heard it taking years, months. I mean, the money. Now you're in the system. You got to hire a lawyer, and they've got endless supplies of money, with the taxpayer money, the government money, to retain that confiscated cash. It's just there's so much. There's even more. Look, I'm only 2/3 through this. That's enough. I'm not going to do another video on this. This is just, it's disturbing. That's the word I'm looking for. I said infuriating. You know what it is? It's disturbing. It ought to disturb you. It ought to get you mad enough that you begin to purify yourself with the Word of God and knowing what's right, true. I mean, and make sure that the Holy Spirit's living in you because you've been sealed with the Holy Ghost. So you have discernment. When these things are whacked out. This is not just some little bit rough around the edges agent. This guy does not have a right heart. He thinks he's deceived himself in his heart that he's doing good and he's fighting the war on drugs and saving people's lives and everything. He's terrorizing people. He's trampling and tearing up people's rights publicly. It's just egregious. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable. I pray that somehow, whatever depth of corruption this guy may further have, I pray to God she's the light of day. It will see it at judgment. We all are. Some men's sins go before them to the judgment. We won't see until the end. Those ones who maybe get away with it all their life, well, they'll meet their Maker. Because it's appointed unto them once to die, and after that to judgment. And there's others, by the grace of God, really, that He brings some judgment to us, very mercifully, by the way, whatever it takes to cause us to repent. There's just illustrations in the Bible where the Lord brought judgment on people. He made, I think it was Nebuchadnezzar, he became like a wild animal, eating grass, hair growing long. It looked like a wild man for like 7 years, like a madman. But the Lord restored His kingdom to him when he finally acknowledged the Lord, because Nebuchadnezzar believed like he was God, and the Lord took it all away from him. I think it was Nebuchadnezzar. See, I'm rusty. I keep telling you, I'm rusty. Anyway, there you go. There's my 2-hour plus installment. One of the last ones, so we'll give it. It's a Saturday. This got my blood flowing, I guess, anyway. So may God richly bless you. I hope that, like David Byrne, you decide to focus on what is lovely and true and good, and that you will not approach the Word of God. You will not approach the filth and the sewer of the news, political discussion, whatever, without conscientiously, whether you just peruse Proverbs, this and that, before you read it, or you try to think of what does the Bible say about what I'm hearing here, and hopefully something quickens to you. And if it doesn't, well, you need to have it in your spirit. You're not just going to hear words coming out of the air. Okay, if you've put it in you, the Holy Spirit will quicken to you the word, to your mind, to your heart, to quicken your understanding. And the more that you have in you, the more you'll see how it applies to what we're living in. It quickens us to be looking up. This is keeping our oil lamp full. This is keeping our oil lamp full. And we need to do that. We need to not be like the foolish girls who didn't know when the Lord was coming, when the bridegroom comes, right? That's who the Lord is. He's referred to as the bridegroom. The bridegroom comes, the Messiah comes again, and we're just fooling around. And we're just under all this oppression and mind control, and and thinking we're happy based on things we're told should make us happy. We don't really have true joy of the Lord. We don't have any strength whatsoever. We don't have minds for what is true and what is right and what is good. We're foolish. I'm not saying we won't be saved in the end. I don't know. The Bible says the righteous are scarcely saved. how much more those who flaunt it, or who not flaunt it, who push off the salvation and put it off and don't have regard for it, that's offered for free. I hope that you it's easy to think that purifying yourself and your mind, your heart, or giving up things that you are, it's like, oh, what a boring or horrible life, I'm gonna get my kicks. Well, when you get so sick of, first of all, your own, when sin does you in, whether it's your health problems, relationship problems, you start to realize you don't want that anymore. When you start to see, wow, now that I frame the news and the Word of God, now that I see this DA agent isn't just a little overzealous, that it's actually wicked what he's doing, that it's really wicked against, we have a right to privacy. We have things that people died for that are in place so that we were not unlawfully searched or anything seized. Unlawful search or seizure. Well, they've written laws now. This guy can do that. I'll tell you what. I don't care what the law says that I had permission to do. Ethically, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't just because I had the power to search some lady's bags and take cash. I have no idea where she got it, but it's a lot. And it just looks like, well, where did this young woman get all this money? She must be a criminal. She might be. I don't have a right to do that. She has a right to travel. She has a right to privacy. She has a right to her possessions and property. And this fella, he has a right to answer the Lord to this, and he will. I pray that he has a come to Jesus moment. He gets convicted, but I don't know. All right, well that's it. That's all for me. I did the best I can at this. A couple more days. Thanks for watching. Be safe out there.